Chapter 1. The Pipe, the Dress, and the First Shock. The steady drip of water echoed in the upstairs bathroom, each drop smacking against the porcelain like a metronome for my thoughts. I was crouched in the shower, half-soaked, wrench in one hand, flashlight in the other, wrestling with a stubborn copper joint that just wouldn't seal. The smell of plumber's tape and damp tile hung in the air. It was late, too late for anyone to be coming in. The girl's night had been no guys allowed, and I'd assumed I'd be in bed before she even got home. But I heard the quick, purposeful footsteps on the hardwood downstairs, the click of the front door shutting, the scrape of heels against the steps. I kept working, expecting her to peek her head in and say a sleepy hey before disappearing into the bedroom. Instead, the bathroom door slammed open so hard it bounced against the stopper. "Move," she said sharply. Her voice wasn't the playful, tipsy sing-song I was used to after she'd been out with her friends. No giggles, no flirty babe, guess what happened? Just hard. I froze, wrench in hand, water still dribbling from the pipe onto my forearm. Hey to you too," I said, half smiling. "I need to use the bathroom. Now." I frowned. Yeah, well, I'm in the middle of. She was already striding in, brushing past me with enough force that her hip knocked into my shoulder. The faint scent hit me instantly, sharp and sweet, not her usual vanilla body spray. This was something muskier, expensive, and not hers. "What's the rush?" I asked, straightening up. She didn't answer, just started rifling in her purse with quick, jerky movements, like she was looking for something buried at the bottom. "Pipe's almost fixed," I said, trying to keep it casual. "Water's been—" I said I need to use it, okay? She wasn't looking at me. She yanked the tiny zipper pouch from her bag, shoved the purse aside, and started peeling off her dress in one fluid, impatient motion. It was then that I saw it. At first, I thought it was just a shadow, but as the soft overhead light caught it, the shape became clear, a faint, reddish-purple mark just above her collarbone. An oval, slightly smudged, right where her skin was usually pale. A mark you don't get from bumping into furniture. My mouth went dry. "What's that?" She froze for half a second, not long enough for someone to really notice if they weren't looking for it, then kept pulling her dress over her head. "What's what?" "That." I pointed, my voice sharper now. "On your neck." She glanced at the bathroom mirror like she was checking her hair, not her skin. "It's nothing. Probably from my necklace rubbing." "Necklaces don't leave bruises," I said flatly. Her jaw tightened. "Are you seriously doing this right now? You're in here playing plumber. I'm tired, I just want to shower, and now I've got to deal with you acting jealous." The word jealous hit me wrong. I hadn't even said the word. I hadn't accused her. Not yet. But she was already on the defensive. I stepped out of the shower, water dripping onto the tile. "I'm not jealous. I'm asking a question. You came home late, you pushed past me, and you've got—" I gestured again toward her neck that. She tossed her dress into the hamper and turned on the shower. Steam began to rise, curling around us like fog. "You're reading into things. It's probably from when Sarah hugged me goodbye. She's got those stupid bracelets that—" I cut her off. "Since when do Sarah's bracelets smell like men's cologne?" That made her pause. Barely. But I caught it. The subtle tightening of her lips before she plastered on a fake look of annoyance. "You're being ridiculous." The mark wasn't the only thing. Now that I was close enough, I noticed a faint shimmer on her chest, glitter, tiny specks clinging to her skin. She didn't own anything that left glitter. And her hair, it looked windblown, but not from walking outside. "Where were you, really?" I asked. She turned to me fully now, one hand on her hip. "Oh, here we go. You don't believe me? You think I'm lying about going out with my friends?" I held her gaze. "I think something's off." She laughed, short and sharp. Maybe I stayed out because I knew you'd act like this. You can't handle me having fun without you breathing down my neck." That stung, not because it was true, but because it was the opposite of who I'd always been. I'd never been the jealous, possessive type. I worked long hours, paid the bills, kept the house running. I trusted her, or at least I had. "Fun doesn't usually leave bruises," I said quietly. Her eyes flashed with irritation. "God, you're unbelievable." She stepped into the shower, letting the hot water cascade over her, her back turned to me as if I wasn't even there. I stood there for a moment, wrench still in hand, steam wrapping around me, my pulse hammering in my ears. I could say more, push harder, demand answers, but something in me told me not to. Not yet. I stepped back, leaned against the sink, and just watched her silhouette through the fog glass. The faint scent of that unfamiliar cologne still lingered in the air, mixing with the steam, refusing to fade. For the first time in years, I felt a cold, unfamiliar pit form in my stomach, a mix of anger, suspicion, and something worse. The feeling that I was already too late. I didn't say another word. Chapter 2, the days before. It started the Monday before her night out. We'd been married 11 years, and while things weren't perfect, we had a rhythm. The kind you fall into when you've been with someone long enough to know their coffee order, their moods, and the way they like their laundry folded. I worked long hours at the construction firm. She managed her graphic design clients from home. Even when we were busy, there was always a kiss in the morning, dinner together most nights, and a shared Netflix show to wind down. Lately, though, there'd been a shift. It wasn't a blow-up fight or some obvious sign, just a dull hum in the background that something was off. She was on her phone more. Not the casual scrolling she used to do while we watched TV, but head down, screen closed, thumbs moving fast. Sometimes she'd tilt it away if I walked into the room. Tuesday night, I came home later than usual. She was sitting on the couch with her laptop open, earbuds in. I waved. She barely looked up. "Hey," I said, kicking off my boots. "Working on a client project?" "Yeah," she said without looking away. "Deadline's crazy this week. Need me to heat up dinner?" She shook her head. "Already ate." That caught me. We almost always ate together, even if it was just takeout. "Could have waited for me," I said, half smiling. She finally glanced up, expression flat. "I was starving. Sorry. I'll let slide. No point in making it a thing." By Wednesday, the deadline had turned into I might have to work late. Well, I called her around 6 p.m. The background was loud, clinking glasses, muffled laughter, music. "Where are you?" I asked. "Just grabbing a bite with some people from the new networking group I joined." "What networking group?" "Oh, just some designers and small business owners. It's good for referrals," she said quickly. "I'll tell you about it later." She didn't. Thursday night was when she brought it up, the girls' night. We were clearing dinner plates when she said it, almost like she'd been waiting for the right moment. "So, Friday next week, I'm going out with the girls," she said, rinsing her dish. "No guys allowed. Just us." I raised an eyebrow. "Who's US?" "You know, Sarah, Kim, a couple of Sarah's friends." "Do I know them?" "Not really," she said, drying her hands. "It's just a fun thing we're doing. You wouldn't like it." That part bugged me. Wouldn't like it? What? Is it karaoke or something? She gave me a look, that little smirk she used when she thought I was being difficult. "No, it's just girl time. You get it, right? Sometimes we just want to hang out without the guys hovering." I chuckled. "Hovering? I don't hover. I'd probably just sit at the bar and watch the game." Her smirk faded. "See, that's exactly what I mean. It's not that kind of night." I leaned against the counter. "You're really selling this no guys thing hard." She crossed her arms. "Because every time I make plans without you, you get that look." "What look?" "That one you have right now," she said, turning away to put the dishes in the rack. I laughed, but there was no humor in it. "All right, fine. Go have your girl time. Just don't forget about me while you're living it up." "Don't be dramatic," she tossed over her shoulder. Friday morning, I noticed she was already dressed when I came down for coffee. Hair done, makeup sharper than her usual work-from-home look. She was wearing a fitted top and jeans that hug her a little more than normal. "Early meeting?" I asked. She smiled, but it was quick. "No, just felt like looking nice today." When I left for work, she was back on her phone, smiling at something. I kissed the top of her head. She barely looked up. Saturday afternoon, I was in the garage cleaning tools when she came in. "You're really into your phone this week," I said casually, wiping my hands on a rag. "It's just group chat stuff," she replied, too quickly. "The girls are figuring out details for Friday." "That's a lot of details for one night out." She rolled her eyes. "You think planning outfits and meeting spots is just one detail? Please, do I at least get to see what you're wearing?" "Maybe," she said, smirking again. "If you're nice." By Sunday night, the distance between us felt like an actual space in the room. We watched TV, but she was texting more than watching. I caught her smiling at the screen. "Something funny?" I asked. "Just Sarah being dumb." I reached for her hand, She didn't pull away, but she didn't squeeze back either. Monday rolled around again, and I was starting to piece it together, or at least I thought I was. New group of friends I'd never met. More time working late. Girls' night with strict no guys rules. All of it came wrapped in this low-level defensiveness, like I was the one acting strange. That night, over dinner, I tried again. So, this girl's night, where are you guys going? She sipped her wine. Downtown. Probably a few places. We haven't decided exactly. Who's driving? We'll Uber. Why do you care? Because I like knowing where my wife is at night, I said evenly. She set her glass down harder than necessary. I'm not reporting my every move. I'm going out with friends. That's it. I held up my hands. All right. Just asking. Her eyes softened, but only a little. You're overthinking it. It's nothing. I wanted to believe that. I really did. But the truth was, the more she insisted it was nothing, the more it started to feel like something. And that something was starting to take up more space in my head than I wanted to admit. That Friday was coming fast, and I had no idea that what she called just a fun night out would be the beginning of a slow, painful unraveling I couldn't stop. Chapter 3. Tiny Cracks in the Mirror. The morning after her girls-only night out, the first thing I noticed was the silence. Not the peaceful kind, either the kind that sits heavy in a room. Usually, when she got home late, she was slow-moving but chatty in the morning. She'd shuffle into the kitchen with messy hair, nursing a cup of coffee and telling me about something stupid Sarah said or the weird guy at the bar who wouldn't leave them alone. But this morning, she moved like she was walking on glass. I was already at the table, reading the news on my tablet, when she came in. Her hair was damp, like she'd already showered, and she wore one of my old sweatshirts. She gave me a quick morning without looking at me, then went straight for the coffee pot. You sleep okay? I asked, trying to sound casual. She nodded back to me. Yeah. Her voice was short, tight, like she was measuring every word before it left her mouth. I watched her pour her coffee, stir in sugar, and take the first sip, still not making eye contact. Something about the way she kept her body angled away from me was deliberate. Late night. I asked. Another sip. We hit a couple places. Which ones? She hesitated just enough for me to notice. This rooftop bar downtown. Then, I don't know, some lounge Sarah likes. I wasn't really paying attention to names. That wasn't like her. She was the type to remember details, especially if she thought I might take her there later. She sat at the table with her phone in hand, scrolling quickly, thumbs tapping. The light from the screen reflected in her eyes, but I couldn't see what she was reading. Then her phone buzzed, a sharp, short vibration. She smiled faintly and started typing faster. What's funny? I asked. She glanced up, startled, then set the phone face down on the table. Nothing. Just Sarah. Sarah's up early for a Saturday, I said, sipping my coffee. Yeah, she's always up early, she replied too quickly. She's doing some yoga thing. Her tone was off. Defensive, like she was swatting away a question before it could grow teeth. We went through breakfast like that, me making small talk, her dodging it. She pushed her eggs around with her fork more than she ate them. Every time her phone buzzed, she glanced at it, then flipped it over so I couldn't see. When I got up to refill my coffee, I caught it again, that faint scent of the same unfamiliar cologne I'd noticed the night before. Not strong, but enough to confirm it hadn't been my imagination. You smell different, I said casually. She looked up sharply. What do you mean? Not bad different, I clarified. Just not your usual perfume. Oh, yeah, it's Sarah's. I sprayed some of hers last night. She went back to her plate. I let it drop, but my mind didn't. After breakfast, she disappeared into the bedroom. I followed a few minutes later, intending to grab my laundry basket. She was sitting on the bed, phone in hand again, grinning at the screen. The second she heard me in the doorway, she locked it and set it down. Who was that? I asked lightly. Still Sarah, she said without missing a beat. She's sending me memes. I raised an eyebrow. Memes make you smile like that. She gave a mock eye roll. Don't read into it. But that's exactly what I was doing. The rest of the morning was a parade of little things that, on their own, could have meant nothing. Together, though, they started to look like a pattern. She kept her phone with her, not just in the same room, but physically in her hand. Even when she went to make tea, she sat on the counter within reach. That wasn't normal. When I suggested we go out for lunch, she said she wasn't feeling up to it, claiming she had a headache. Then, 15 minutes later, she was laughing at something on her phone again. I noticed she'd changed clothes, too. Sometime after breakfast, she'd swapped my sweatshirt for a fitted tank top and yoga pants. Her hair was pulled back, but she'd touched up her makeup. For someone with a headache, she looked oddly ready for something. By early afternoon, I was outside trimming the hedges when she came out with the recycling. She was still on her phone. "You're really glued to that thing today," I said. She didn't look up. "It's just a busy group chat." "Uh-huh," I replied. "Don't start," she said sharply, then caught herself and softened her tone. "I mean, don't make a big deal. Please." That please was the only genuine note I'd heard all day. It made me wonder, was she actually hiding something, or was I just becoming the guy who jumps at shadows? That evening, we sat in the living room. She curled up on one end of the couch with a blanket, scrolling through her phone, while I pretended to watch TV. Halfway through a rerun, her phone buzzed again. She tilted the screen away from me, typed a quick reply, and smiled at whatever came back. "Sarah again?" I asked. "Yep," she said without hesitation. "Mind if I see what's so funny?" I asked, mostly to see her reaction. Her fingers tightened around the phone. "It's just inside jokes. You wouldn't get it." She stood up before I could say anything else, muttering something about making tea, and disappeared into the kitchen. I sat there, staring at the empty space where she'd been sitting, and realized something. Over the last 24 hours, I've been collecting mental snapshots of her behavior like pieces of a puzzle I didn't want to put together. A sudden need for privacy. A constant connection to someone she claimed was just a friend. Dodge questions. Defensive answers. And that mark on her neck, faint now, but still there if you knew where to look. One or two of those things I could brush off. But all of them, packed into the space of a single morning, it was hard not to see the cracks forming. Cracks that, once you spot them, you can't unsee. Chapter 4. The First Signs of War. By Monday, the unease was eating at me enough that I needed to hear it out loud, from someone who wasn't inside my head. That night after work, I stopped by the Rusty Nail, a dim little bar where I'd been meeting my buddy Mike for years. He was already in our booth, nursing a beer. Mike was one of those guys who could smell trouble before most people even saw smoke. "You look like hell," he said as I slid in across from him. "Appreciate the compliment," I muttered, flagging the bartender. "So what's going on?" I hesitated. I hated being that guy, the one airing his marriage problems like bad laundry. But Mike wasn't the type to sugarcoat. "She's different lately," I began. "More time on her phone, hiding the screen, laughing at messages she won't explain. Girls' nights with people I've never met. Came home last week with a mark on her neck and swears it's nothing." Mike frowned. "You straight up ask her?" "Yeah. She says I'm overthinking it." He leaned back, studying me. "Listen, man, I'm not saying she's doing anything. But when people change their routines like that, when they suddenly get cagey, that's not random. You gotta watch for patterns. Don't go in guns blazing. Just pay attention." "Patterns," I repeated. "Yep. And don't let her spin it so you feel crazy. That's the oldest trick in the book." We talked for another hour, but his words stuck in my head the whole drive home. 2 days later, the pattern started showing itself. I came home early Wednesday, and she was in the bedroom, half-dressed. Not in her usual comfy sweatpants, but in a fitted skirt and blouse, the kind she used to wear when she had meetings downtown. Except she'd been working from home all day. "Going somewhere?" I asked from the doorway. She jumped a little. "Oh, just meeting some friends for dinner." "What friends?" "You don't know them," she said quickly, smoothing her skirt. "It's just girls from a gym." "Gym? Since when do you go to the gym?" Her eyes flickered. "I signed up last week." "Thought I told you." She hadn't. Over the next few days, she started leaving the house more often, always with a vague excuse. Spin class, networking dinner, catching up with the girls. She bought new workout clothes, brighter lipstick, and, the kicker, lingerie I'd never seen before. I found it when I was putting away laundry. Black lace, tag still on. My gut told me it wasn't bought for me. That night, I asked her about it. "New lingerie?" I said casually, leaning against the doorway as she folded shirts. She barely glanced up. "Yeah." What about it? Didn't know you were into lace now. Can't a woman buy something nice for herself? She shot back. Sure. Just seems like a lot of effort for someone who's been too tired lately. Her folding slowed. You know, not everything I do revolves around you, she said, her voice taking on that sharp edge I was starting to recognize. I didn't say it did. But you're implying it, she snapped, throwing the shirt into the drawer. God, you're being paranoid. I kept my tone even. Asking questions isn't paranoia. She rolled her eyes. It is when you twist everything into some conspiracy. Newsflash, I can have a life outside of you. I let it drop, but inside, it felt like she'd just drawn the first battle line. That weekend, while she was at the gym, I decided to check her bank account. Not to spy, I told myself, just make sure the bills were fine. But it didn't take long before I saw it. Multiple charges at bars and lounges downtown. Not coffee shops, not casual restaurants, late-night spots. One receipt from the Friday before caught my eye. 2 drinks, each around $14, and a bar tab that didn't match the number of people she claimed were there. When she got home, still flush from her workout, I asked, "How was the gym?" "Good. Tiring." I leaned against the counter. "You hit any bars after?" Her brow furrowed. "What?" "No. That's weird. Card statement says you were at the Velvet Room Friday night." She stared at me for a long second, then scoffed. "Are you seriously checking up on me now?" "Wow. I'm just asking. It's a lounge, and we went for 1 drink." "Big deal," she said, brushing past me. "You make everything into an interrogation. It's called a conversation." "No, it's called you not trusting me." That one stung. She flipped it so fast I almost doubted myself, almost. Over the next week, I kept my mouth shut but started quietly logging things. Time she left, where she said she was going, what she wore, when she came home. The truth was, I wasn't sure which was worse. Catching her lying, or realizing she was so confident I wouldn't catch her at all. And somewhere deep down, I knew this wasn't just a phase or self-care. This was a shift. The first real signs of war. Chapter 5, The Shifting Ground. It was subtle at first. A miskissed goodnight. A shift in the way she rolled away from me in bed instead of curling into my side like she used to. When we did have sex, it felt different. Shorter, like she was rushing through it. The easy, unspoken rhythm we'd built over years had been replaced with something mechanical, like she was checking off a chore. Sometimes she'd even stop halfway, muttering that she was tired, then roll over without looking at me. I told myself not to take it personally. People go through phases. Stress, work, changes in mood. I'd read enough articles to know intimacy can ebb and flow in a marriage. But the difference wasn't just physical. It was in her eyes. Before, when we were together, there was always that flicker of connection, that tiny, silent, "I'm here with you." Now, her gaze felt elsewhere. One Tuesday night, I was in the living room paying bills while she showered upstairs. Her phone was on the arm of the couch next to where she'd been sitting earlier. Normally, I wouldn't have touched it, but then it buzzed. Once, twice, 3 times in quick succession. The sound was sharp in the quiet room. I glanced toward the stairs, water still running. The screen lit up with a name I didn't recognize. Nathan. I didn't know any Nathan, and I was damn sure she'd never mentioned one. A preview of the message glowed on the screen before fading. Still thinking about last night, winking face, can't get it out of my head. My stomach dropped. The water upstairs kept running, steady and oblivious. Another buzz. This time, "Wish you were here right now." My pulse was pounding in my ears. I stared at that glowing rectangle like it was a live grenade. Every part of me wanted to pick it up, scroll through, see everything. But another part, the part that had been holding back for weeks, told me not to. Not yet. If I confronted her now, she'd have an excuse ready. She'd flip it, make me the paranoid husband again. I needed more than one message. By the time she came downstairs in a towel, hair damp, phone in hand, my face was neutral. I'd shoved the storm inside into a box, sealed it tight. "Hey," she said casually, heading for the bedroom. "Hey," I replied, keeping my eyes on my laptop. She didn't notice a thing. That night, lying beside her in the dark, my mind wouldn't shut off. The words from Nathan burned in my head, replaying over and over. Still thinking about last night. "Wish you were here right now." She told me she was at the gym last night. I stared at the ceiling until I made a decision. If there was something going on, if she was really doing what I thought she might be, I wasn't going to catch her by accident. I was going to see it with my own eyes. The next day, I started paying closer attention. Not the obvious kind. I didn't want her to know I was watching. I noticed she kept her phone with her at all times now, even taking it into the bathroom when she brushed her teeth, even propping it up on the counter when she cooked. Her gym nights were more frequent, but she never came back sweaty. Sometimes her hair would be freshly styled when she walked in, like she'd just gotten ready instead of worked out. And then there were the clothes. She'd leave in yoga pants and a hoodie, but I'd catch a glimpse of something else underneath, a fitted top, a dressier bra strap, lipstick she'd put on just in case she saw someone she knew. Thursday night, I tested something. She came into the kitchen, dressed for another class, phone in hand. "Need a ride?" I asked, leaning casually against the counter. She blinked. "Why would I need a ride? Car's been making that noise again. Thought you might want to avoid it." She shook her head quickly. "I'll be fine. Don't wait up." The speed of the answer was telling. She didn't even pause to consider it. By Friday, my quiet observation was becoming routine. I checked the bank statements again, this time noting timestamps. Late-night charges that didn't match the hours of her supposed workouts. At dinner that night, she was scrolling again, smiling faintly. "Who's got you grinning like that?" I asked, keeping my tone light. "Sarah," she said almost automatically. The lie landed soft, but I caught it. Sarah wasn't sending wink emojis, and I can't stop thinking about you messages. I didn't challenge her. I just filed it away. Lying in bed that night, I watched her out of the corner of my eye. She was turned away, phone low, thumb moving. Every now and then, her shoulders would shake with a quiet laugh. I could feel the space between us growing wider with each click of her screen. And I knew, without a shadow of doubt, that whatever was going on, it wasn't going to stop on its own. This wasn't a phase. This was a shift. The ground under my marriage was moving, and I was done pretending I didn't feel it. Chapter 6, The Trap is Set. It wasn't random. That was the first thing I realized. The girls' nights weren't spontaneous spur-of-the-moment outings like she made them sound. They fell into a rhythm, every other Thursday and at least one Saturday a month. And every single time, she came home late. Not late, like she'd stayed a little longer for dessert or coffee. No, we were talking 1.30, 2 o'clock a.m. late enough that the street was quiet, the house was still, and I was the only one awake. And it wasn't just the time. It was the smell. She'd walk in with that faint, unfamiliar cologne lingering in the air around her. Not perfume cologne, a man's. It was subtle, but once you catch it, you can't unsmell it. I started tracking. Nothing obvious. I wasn't about to let her know I was building a case. But I had my phone calendar open on my work computer, and every time she mentioned a girl's night, I marked it. Patterns started forming. The same friends' names rotated in the excuses. Meeting Jess for drinks. Megan wants to hit that wine place. Sarah's been dying to try the rooftop bar, but there was no mention of where they went after. The first social media slip came on a Sunday morning. I was scrolling through Facebook while she was in the shower, not looking for anything in particular. That's when I saw it, a post from Megan. A group selfie. For women, smiling big, holding drinks in a dimly lit bar. My wife was in the middle, her hair perfect, makeup fresh. At first glance, it was harmless. But then I saw it. In the far right edge of the frame, just barely in view, was an arm. A man's arm. Broad, tan, wearing a leather watch and a fitted shirt sleeve rolled to the elbow. His hand was on her waist. Not resting. Holding. And she wasn't leaning away. The photo was cropped in a way that almost made it look accidental, like he wasn't supposed to be in the shot. But I knew better. I stared at that arm for a long time. Zoomed in. Saw the way his fingers curved just slightly into the side of her dress, like they'd done it before. When she came downstairs, fresh from the shower, I had already switched to a news site on my phone. "Morning," she said, walking past me to the kitchen. "Morning," I replied. My voice was steady, but my chest felt tight. From then on, I paid attention to every photo that surfaced after her nights out. Her friends were smart. Most pictures were from earlier in the evening, before whatever really happened later. But now and then, a detail slipped through. A shadow in the corner of a booth. 2 glasses of whiskey on the table when no one in her group drank whiskey. a reflection in a bar mirror, tall, male, standing too close behind her. It was like piecing together a puzzle where most of the pieces had been deliberately hidden. The paranoia came next. It started small, wondering who she was texting when her phone lit up at midnight, asking myself if she really had to work late on a Tuesday, noticing when she came home in a different mood than she left. But paranoia has a way of breeding anger. I'd be sitting at my desk at work, trying to focus, and my mind would wander to that damn photo, the hand on her waist. I'd picture her leaning into someone else's cologne, smiling like she used to smile at me. And then, when she'd text me during the day, "Hope your meeting's going well," I'd have to force myself to respond like nothing was wrong, because nothing would blow this faster than letting her see the crack in my mask. One Thursday, she came home at nearly 2 a.m. I was sitting in the living room with the TV on low, pretending to be half asleep. She walked in, heels in her hand, hair slightly mussed, cheeks flushed. "Hey," she said softly, almost startled to see me awake. "Hey," I replied, watching her set her shoes by the door. "Couldn't sleep?" she asked, glancing toward the darkened stairs. "Yeah," I said. "You have fun." She smiled faintly, but her eyes slid away. "Yeah, it was good. Just the girls. Just the girls." And the faint trace of that same cologne drifted across the room. That was when I knew. It wasn't time to confront her yet. Not while I only had pieces. No, this needed to be done right. Methodically. Patiently. I needed the whole picture. So I smiled back at her. "Good. Glad you had fun." And inside, I was already setting the trap. I'd wait. I'd watch. And when she finally stepped too far out of the shadows, I'd be there. The right moment was coming. I could feel it. Chapter 7, The Breaking Point. It was a Friday night. Her makeup was heavier than usual, her dress hugging in ways she hadn't bothered with for me in months. She stood in front of the mirror, checking her lipstick, her earrings, her hair, all with the kind of care and precision I remembered from when we were first dating. She caught me watching her from the doorway. "What?" she asked, half smiling, half defensive. "Nothing," I said, masking it with a shrug. "You look ready for something." She rolled her eyes and reached for her clutch. "It's girls' night. I told you already. Don't wait up. I might have to head into work later," I lied, leaning against the frame. "Big project deadline." She nodded absent-mindedly, already scrolling on her phone, thumbs moving quick. I took note of the time. 8:17 p.m. She left 10 minutes later. Her heels clicked on the driveway as she walked to her car. I waited until I heard the engine fade, then slipped on my jacket and grabbed my keys. The street was dark, the kind of quiet that swallows sound. I followed at a distance, my headlights far enough back not to be noticed, my pulse thudding against the steering wheel. She drove west, away from the part of town where her friends usually met. I stayed back at every light, every turn. After 15 minutes, she pulled into a dimly lit strip mall parking lot. Only a handful of cars were scattered across the asphalt. I eased my car into the shadows behind a closed hardware store. And then he appeared. Tall, broad shoulders, dark jacket. He walked with the kind of confidence that said this wasn't the first time. She got out of her car and smiled. Not the polite smile she gave strangers, but the soft, almost shy smile I hadn't seen in years. My stomach clenched. They didn't hug. They didn't shake hands. He just placed his hand lightly on her lower back, a touch that was too familiar, and guided her toward the far end of the lot. I killed my engine and slipped out, keeping low as I moved along the side of the building. The air smelled faintly of gasoline and wet asphalt. They stopped beneath a broken streetlight near a side entrance to a lounge. From where I stood, the glow of a neon beer sign painted their faces in streaks of red and blue. He leaned down to say something. She laughed quietly, tilting her head in that way she used to when she wanted to make me feel like the funniest man alive. It was like watching a scene from someone else's life, one I didn't belong in anymore. I pulled my phone from my pocket, fingers shaking slightly. I zoomed in through the camera, snapping photo after photo, her profile in the light, his hand brushing her hip, the way they stood just a little too close. They glanced around once, casually, as if making sure no one they knew was nearby. Then, without hesitation, they walked inside together. Through the tinted lounge windows, I could make out movement, dim lighting, amber glow from overhead bulbs, the soft pulse of music I could feel more than hear. They found a booth in the corner. He sat first, then she slid in beside him, not across. Her body angled toward his arm draped behind her, not touching at first, but not far from it. I caught another photo. My throat was dry. The rational part of me screamed to go in, to drag her out by the wrist, to make a scene that would burn the truth into the open. But the colder, quieter part, the one that had been watching, collecting, waiting, told me no. Not yet. What I had was damning, but I wanted it undeniable. I wanted the kind of proof she couldn't twist, couldn't spin back on me with gaslighting and fake tears. So I stayed in the shadows, my hands in my jacket pockets, my eyes locked on that corner booth, as if sheer focus could make time slow down. At one point, she pulled out her phone. I could see her typing, the blue glow lighting her face. My own phone stayed silent. Whatever she was sending, it wasn't to me. He said something that made her laugh again, and this time his hand brushed along the back of her neck. She didn't flinch. She didn't pull away. I leaned against the brick wall outside, checking the timestamp on my photos, letting the seconds crawl by. I memorized the way they looked together, the rhythm of their body language, the casual ease of it. This wasn't new. This wasn't one reckless mistake. This was practice. Eventually, they ordered drinks. Hers was in a stemmed glass, his in a short tumbler. They clinked them together, leaning in close. Every sip, every glance, every small shift in her posture felt like another nail being driven in. And still I didn't move, because I knew this wasn't the night for confrontation. Not yet. No, this was the night I stopped doubting myself. This was the night I crossed the line from suspicion to certainty. The night I understood that whatever we had, whatever I thought we still were, was already gone. But I wasn't going to walk away empty-handed. I was going to walk away with the truth. And when the time came, she wasn't going to see me coming. Chapter 8, The Night of Discovery. The sound of the front door slamming woke the quiet house like a gunshot. I was upstairs, crouched under the shower head, wrench in hand, tightening the last stubborn joint on the pipe that had been dripping for days. My shirt was damp, my knees aching against the cold tile. I heard her heels click fast against the hardwood floor downstairs, her voice low, almost muttering to herself. The bathroom door swung open, so suddenly I nearly dropped the wrench. She stepped in, not with the usual, "Hey, you still working on that thing?" or a playful kiss on the cheek, but like I wasn't even there. She moved quick, head down, clutch in hand, shoulders tense. "Bathroom's occupied," I said, straightening up, water still running from the open pipe. "Just give me 2 minutes till I need it now," she snapped, brushing past me so forcefully that my shoulder knocked against the wall. Her perfume hit me immediately. Not her usual soft floral scent, but something heavier, muskier, and it was layered over the faint tang of cologne. My stomach tightened. I watched her drop the clutch on the counter, tugging at the zipper on her dress. "What's going on?" I asked, my voice low, trying to keep it even. "Nothing," she said sharply, back to me. "Just get out for a sec, okay?" But then the zipper came down, the fabric sliding off her shoulder, and I saw it. A red mark, just above her collarbone. Not a rash, not a scratch. A mark made by someone's mouth. I froze. My throat went dry. "What's that?" She paused for just a fraction of a second, but it was enough. "What's what?" she said, voice dripping with fake confusion. "That," I said, stepping closer, pointing. "On your neck." She glanced at the mirror, then turned her body away from me like she was shielding it. "Oh, that? It's nothing." My friend was being stupid and don't. I cut in. My voice came out harder than I'd intended. "Don't insult me with some made-up crap. I'm looking right at it." Her jaw tightened. She slipped the dress off completely, tossing it toward the hamper, standing there in new black lingerie I'd never seen before. "So now I can't buy myself new underwear without an interrogation? This isn't about the lingerie." "Then what, huh?" She shot back, spinning to face me. "You've been sulking for weeks, looking at me like you're waiting for me to slip up. Maybe you're just paranoid because you've got nothing better to do than play detective in your own house." I took a slow breath, keeping my eyes locked on hers. "You come home late, you smell like cologne, and now you've got a mark on your neck you can't explain. That's not paranoia. That's facts." She laughed, but there was no humor in it, just sharp edges. Wow, you've been rehearsing this, haven't you? What's next? You gonna check my phone like some insecure teenager? Should I? I asked. Her eyes flickered just for a second before she rolled them dramatically. Unbelievable. I go out for a night with friends, and I come back to you playing some CSI fantasy in the bathroom. You've been lying to me, I said. My voice was steady now, cold. And you're not even good at it anymore. That's when she snapped. Oh, please. You think the whole world revolves around you? Maybe if you actually paid attention to me instead of burying yourself in work and chores, I wouldn't have to find fun somewhere else. The words hit like a slap. Somewhere else. I repeated, my voice barely above a whisper. Her chin lifted defiant. I said what I said. We stood there in the steam-filled bathroom, water still dripping from the open pipe, her breathing sharp, mine slow and heavy. The mark on her neck burned in my vision like a brand. And in that moment, the last of my doubt evaporated. Chapter 9, The Fallout. I didn't yell. I didn't throw anything. I just walked out. The look on her face when I brushed past her without another word was almost confusion, as if she'd expected me to stand there and keep sparring, feeding her drama. But I didn't give her the satisfaction. The night air outside was cool, biting against my skin. My hands were shaking, not from the cold, but from the adrenaline still raging through my veins. My mind was a cyclone of images. The red mark on her neck, the cologne that wasn't mine, the smug tilt of her chin when she said she found fun somewhere else. I got in my truck and drove. Not toward home, not toward a bar, straight to my friend Mark's place. Mark was more than a friend. He was a lawyer I'd known since high school. The kind of guy who'd show up with a shovel if I called at midnight. When he opened the door and saw my face, he didn't even ask at first. He just said, "Come in." We sat in his kitchen, the hum of the fridge filling the silence while I told him everything. Every weird night out, every lie, every mark and smell and sidelong glance. When I was done, he leaned back in his chair, rubbing his jaw. All right. First thing, stop talking to her about it. No more arguments, no more texts, nothing. You're going to be calm, collect your evidence, and then we'll move. Evidence? I asked, my voice still tight. Yeah, photos, screenshots, receipts, anything that makes it undeniable. Courts love undeniable. I nodded, staring down at my coffee but not tasting it. You think she'll see this coming? Mark gave a humorless laugh. If she did, she wouldn't be sloppy enough to let you spot a hickey in your own damn bathroom. That night, I stayed at Mark's. I didn't want to go back and listen to her pacing around the house, waiting for me to come crawling back into another pointless fight. By morning, my phone was lit up with messages. Her, we need to talk. Her, I didn't mean what I said last night. Her, you're blowing this out of proportion. I ignored them. Then, a few hours later. Her, you'll never find someone like me. Her, good luck with your little investigation, detective. I felt my jaw clench, so tight it hurt. Mark saw me reading them and said, save every single one. You don't respond. Not even a period. Got it. Over the next few days, I moved like a man with two minds. On the surface, I was calm, focused, showing up to work, having lunch with my crew, even cracking a joke or two. Underneath, I was a machine collecting data. I called my buddy Dan, who works in IT. He walked me through pulling a backup of her phone data from the cloud. We found enough messages to make my stomach turn. Flirty little exchanges with a number saved under Tina, except Tina was very clearly not a woman. I visited the bars she'd mentioned in passing. Got copies of receipts. 2 cocktails, both whiskey-based. She hates whiskey. When I told my sister, her face fell. I didn't want to say anything, she admitted. But I thought she was acting off last Thanksgiving. She was texting the whole time and smiling to herself. Even my mother, who'd always adored her, shook her head when she heard. I knew something was wrong when she stopped looking me in the eye at Sunday dinner. It was strange. Once the truth was out, the floodgates opened. Friends, family, people I trusted started admitting they'd seen little signs too. They just hadn't wanted to be the one to break it to me. Her messages kept coming, swinging wildly between fake apologies and cocky little digs. Her, you're overreacting. Her, but if you'd been a better husband, maybe I wouldn't have looked elsewhere. Her, you're never going to do better than me. I didn't delete them. I didn't answer them. I just added them to the growing pile of evidence. And with every screenshot, every bank charge, every tiny slip she'd made, I felt something inside me shifting. The wreckage was still there, the hurt, the betrayal, the disbelief, but under it was something sharper. Something that felt a hell of a lot like focus. Because now, it wasn't just about what she'd done. It was about what I was going to do next. Chapter 10, The Lesson. The courthouse smelled like cheap coffee and paper, but to me, it smelled like justice waiting to be served. I sat in the wooden pew, papers neatly stacked in front of me, each one a piece of the puzzle she'd try to hide. Receipts, screenshots, photographs, a mountain of undeniable evidence. Across the aisle, she flounced in with that same cocky look she'd worn when she thought she was untouchable. Her lawyer whispered something in her ear, and she nodded, giving me a pointed look that was half defiance, half challenge. I didn't flinch. When the judge called the session to order, she tried to make small talk with the bailiff, a nervous habit I recognized from her old charm. I didn't respond. I didn't even glance at her. My focus was straight ahead. The opening statements were formal, stiff, rehearsed. Her lawyer painted a picture of innocent miscommunication and marital strain, as though her constant nights out, unexplained absences, and red-marked necks were all some unfortunate accident. It was my turn. I rose, straight-backed, voice calm, each word deliberate. Your Honor, I began, I am not here to exaggerate. I am here to present facts. I laid out everything. The nights she said she was with friends but was traced to unknown bars. The receipts showing drinks she never mentioned. The photos, all time-stamped, of her with a man whose hand rested on her waist in a way no friend would do. I could see her shifting in her seat, trying to keep her posture light, trying to smile. It didn't work. Not in this courtroom. Not against facts. She wants additional alimony, I said, voice even, despite being fully employed and capable. I respectfully refuse. And given the circumstances of infidelity, I ask the court to consider that in its ruling. Her lawyer sputtered, clearly taken aback by the bluntness. My own lawyer nodded at me, giving me a slight thumbs up. The judge raised an eyebrow. Are you alleging infidelity? Yes, Your Honor, I said. I presented the photos, the messages, and the receipts. Each piece I placed on the table was a hammer striking truth into the proceedings. Her face paled. Her attempts at a coy smile faltered under the weight of evidence. When she was called to answer questions, she stumbled, tried to weave a story about misunderstandings and innocent meetings, but every claim crumbled under careful, pointed questions. Did you meet this man on nights you claimed to be with friends? My lawyer asked. She hesitated, her eyes darting around like a hunted animal. I mean, we talked. Sometimes at bars, sometimes at bars. I echoed, letting the courtroom absorb the understatement of a phrase that belied everything. Did you engage in any physical intimacy with him? Her lips tightened. She looked away. The judge gave her a long, patient pause. Aye, she started, then stopped. I felt the tension behind my eyes begin to release. Calm, collected, silent authority. That was my position, truth on my side. During cross-examination, her arrogance flared one last time. You're exaggerating, she hissed under her breath when she thought I wouldn't hear. I leaned in slightly, voice quiet but cutting. No, you see, I don't need to exaggerate. You've already done the work for me. She gasped, startled. That was the first time I'd ever felt that satisfying pinch of vindication, a quiet, personal victory in the middle of a crowded courtroom. Outside the courtroom later, the hallways smelled of worn linoleum and echoes of whispered conversations. Friends I hadn't seen in years came up, offering nods and quiet congratulations. Some admitted they'd suspected her infidelity, but didn't know how to confirm it. Others just shook their heads in disbelief, muttering about the nerve it took to cheat and lie so brazenly. Her phone buzzed in my pocket. I didn't check it. I already knew. Another string of texts, the same blend of cockiness and faux apology. You'll regret this. Nobody will love you like I did. I smiled faintly to myself. Not bitterness, not anger, just clarity. The final ruling was procedural. She received no extra alimony. Custody agreements were adjusted. And as the judge banged the gavel, Finality settled over me like a heavy cloak. I walked out of that courtroom with my head high. Every step felt lighter, even though my chest still carried the scars of betrayal. The sun hit my face, warm and real. I breathed deeply, inhaling freedom, dignity, and the sharp taste of victory earned through patience and focus. I didn't look back, not once. By the time I reached my car, the reality sank in. The marriage was over. The lies were exposed. But the lesson, the one I carried beyond any courtroom or argument, was mine. Some things you lose and realize they were never worth keeping.